Hi, this is Sarah from beginnerbookkeeping.com. You are now going to learn how to manage columns in an Excel worksheet. Columns are always headed at the top of a worksheet with references, which are letters of the alphabet, starting with A and going along. When it reaches Z, the next letter is AA, then AB, and so on. Excel allows up to just over 16,000 columns. I'm not sure who would use that many, but they're there if you need them. Keep in mind that with Excel there are often several different ways to perform the same action. I use my mouse a lot to perform all the actions I want, but you can also do them by selecting the correct icon in the menus across the top here, which I'll quickly go over at the end of this video. In this tutorial I will mention the word select a fair bit, because whenever you perform an action in Excel, you need to select a cell or a column or a row. So when I say select, it just simply means point your mouse cursor to the particular area that you want to select and click the left mouse button. And in some cases you'll have to hold the mouse button down, but I will mention it when we need to do that. So to insert columns, I'll just show you two methods for now. I want to insert a column between January and March, so between column C and column D. Excel always adds new columns to the left. Therefore, I need to select column D because I want my new column to be to the left of column D. I left-click my mouse on the letter D, which selects the whole column, made obvious by the grey shading. Then I will right-click my mouse and select Insert. A new blank column has now been added. Excel has kept the formatting so the shaded cells are shaded correctly, and now you can enter in your data. You should also note that Excel has automatically moved all the other columns along the alphabet reference. Before we added a new column, March was reference D, but now it's reference E. The second method to insert a column is to select any cell in the sheet, remembering that Excel will insert the new column to the left. I'll select a random cell in column D, right-click, Insert, and select Entire Column. Once again, a whole new column has been added, and the alphabet references along the top have been adjusted. Now I want to add in several columns between May and August. So between column G and H. I need two columns there, so I will select August, but because I want two columns, I will also select October. So I'm selecting column H and column I by left-clicking my mouse on column H, holding down the left click and dragging over to column I. Selecting two adjacent columns tells in Excel how many columns to add. If you want 5 columns, you would select 5. I will right-click, select Insert, and now 2 new columns have been added. The same works when selecting 2 cells in adjacent columns. I'll select 2 cells by left-clicking and dragging across the 2 columns. Right-click, Insert, Entire Column. Now I have too many columns in my sheet, so I need to delete some. I will select column D, right-click, and delete. You can also just select a cell, right-click, delete, entire column. Do the same with 2 columns by selecting 2 adjacent cells. Or selecting the entire 2 columns at the top and deleting from there. You can also delete columns that are not adjacent by selecting the first column, holding down the Control key on your keyboard and selecting the other columns, then right-click and delete. Now let's say you are still waiting on information and you don't want these blank columns to be seen. you can actually hide these columns. Do that by selecting the column, right-click, and select Hide. You can tell when a column is hidden by the fact that the column with the letter G is missing, and also by these two lines here. The other columns all have one line in between, which means nothing is hidden there. It is possible to hide several columns in one go that are not adjacent. Hold down Ctrl on your keyboard, select the columns you want to hide, right-click and hide. Now to unhide columns, select the two columns on either side of the hidden one, right-click and select Unhide. You might sometimes get a row of 5 hash symbols within each cell. This means that the columns are too narrow to display the data that is in them. The columns must be widened. I'm showing you 3 methods here, but there are other ways too. The first method is to point your mouse cursor to the column line, so this line here between the 2 columns. Left click and hold to see the double-sided black arrows and drag the column over. The second and faster method of widening a column is to double-click the black arrows, and Excel will automatically choose the best width based on the widest data in the column. The third method is to select a column, right-click and select column width. This brings up the measurement of the column, which you can type over. I'll change this to 10. Once again, you can select several columns and widen them in one go by using any of the methods I've just discussed. Before we finish, I'll also quickly point out where you can find the icons in these menus for managing columns. Select Home, then look for cells over here. Click on Insert and you can see that it gives you a menu. Same with Delete, and same with Format. That is the end of this tutorial on managing columns. My next video will show you how to manage rows in the Excel worksheets.